Hey, good afternoon to you out there. Gabe DeArmond here, Sean Williams on the other side of your screen. This is your Tuesday Tiger Recruiting Show. Oddly enough, we do that on Tuesday. So it is Tuesday. We're going to talk a little bit of Missouri recruiting over the next, 30 minutes or so. If you've got questions, comments, whatever, please feel free to throw those in the queue. We will certainly get to those. We'll let them build up a little bit and answer your questions as we go along throughout the show. Got a few things to talk about today. Going to talk a little bit about Logan Reichert, a little bit about Marvin Burks, and a little bit about some other things that are on our mind. But before we do that, what we're going to talk about is James Carlton State Farm Insurance, located in St. Louis, Missouri. He can take care of your insurance needs in the state of Missouri or the state of Illinois. He's got a team of 8, and I've got big news for you guys. If you call James on the phone, you're actually going to get a human being. They don't do the voicemails. They don't do the prompts. You're actually going to talk to a person. And 90% of people, this is a number James told me. I haven't researched it, but I'm going to trust him. But 90% of people, especially with their homeowners insurance, don't really know what they're paying for. So call James, find out what you're paying for, and find out if you can pay less if you switch to him. Also, just by calling and getting a quote from James, and the number is there across the bottom of the screen, 314-961-4800. There's the Facebook page as well. But just by calling James and getting a quote from him, he's a big Mizzou fan. He's going to donate $20 to Advancing Missouri Athletes, Mizzou's NIL collective, for every quote he gives out that mentions this show. I actually was on the radio in St. Louis this morning, and James was part of that show as well. So we call that cross promotion, I think, in the business. And Sean Williams is here with us. And Sean, anything to say, man? Anything going on in your world?
No, man, no false advertising here. The Tuesday Recruiting Show is on Tuesdays for sure. Yep. So we are here.
Yeah. It's literally at this point about the only way I know what day it is, because last week Missouri plays on Thursday, and then there's a football game on Sunday, and it was Labor Day, and there's a football game on Monday night. I almost forgot it was Eli Drinkwitz's press conference today because it's not Tuesday in my world. I don't know what day it is.
Yeah. When you're doing the Labor Day weekend, and especially when you're doing a Missouri Thursday night game before that, and you got all the Labor Day games, and you got a Monday game. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I keep thinking today's Wednesday, actually. So that's me.
I think it's Tuesday, which means we are 2 days away from the next big thing in Mizzou football recruiting, which is Logan Reichert, 4-star offensive lineman out of Raytown, Missouri. According to Rivals, the number 87 player in the country. According to some other people that do this, lower than that. So clearly this is an instance where Rivals has the best ranking. But Logan is going to announce his decision on Thursday afternoon at 4:45 on the football field at Raytown High School. I've communicated with the IT people at Raytown. We're going to get set up with a hotspot. Gerard Hamilton and I are going to go up there and stream the announcement live. And so, I mean, I don't know how many more hints we can give where we think this kid is going, right? Nothing's final until it's final, but.
Yeah, I mean, he's down to a top 2 in Missouri. It's Missouri and Oregon. He's took official visits to both places. He's been to Missouri over 10 times since last year. His mom went to Missouri. We're connecting the dots here, and we pretty much assume it's going to be Missouri. So
they're dots that are not like, it's not a big windy line. It's not super hard to connect these dots.
Yeah, it's not super hard to connect the dots here. And look, I mean, this is it'll be a big day for Missouri, and just because it is a big recruit and one of the top priority guys that they've wanted for a very long time now. And he got offered in the spring of last year, so this has been over a year process now. And, and really Missouri needs this kind of commit, especially on the offensive line, because offensive line recruiting hasn't gone well for Missouri so far. They've missed out on Amir Herring. They missed out on Caden Green. They missed out on Miles McVay. So some big misses there for Missouri. So to get Logan Reichert in the class is definitely a big celebration point for Missouri. And, they do have they should have an offensive lineman in the class by Thursday at 4:45. So.
Right. And not only, I mean, you say a big commitment, like it is literally a big commitment. Logan Reichert is one of the larger 17-year-olds I've ever seen. He might be 18 by now, but when I saw him, I think he was actually 16. one of the larger 16 or 17-year-olds I have seen in quite some time. And that does not always translate into, hey, he's great. I mean, there's a lot of other things that go into it besides just being big, but he is very big.
Yeah, he's big, and I mean, I saw him at the Rivals camp in Indy last year, and yeah, he's super big. And obviously the weight, but he doesn't look his weight. Like he carries it really well. But he's 6'7". He's got a big frame, and yeah, I mean, he's a massive human being, and I'm super talented, got a lot of offers, and I'm sure Missouri would really appreciate him being in the class.
I would like somebody to say to me sometime, you really don't look your weight. A lot of people tell me I don't look my height, but nobody ever says, you really don't look your weight.
They say, Gabe,
you carry that really well.
You really look like you're 6'3" on camera, but then when they see you off camera.
Exactly. I have had people tell me that I'm shorter than I sound. I'm like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah,
like, how do you sound tall?
I think that's kind of like a backhanded compliment, actually. So
yeah. You sound tall, but man, you really aren't.
Yeah.
But I think Reichert is listed at 370. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah, it's either 370, 380. I think it kind of fluctuates depending on where you kind of see his recruiting profile at. But yeah, I mean, he wears it really well. When I talked to him in person this was last spring. So. But yeah, just pretty impressive. I mean, to be 370, he didn't look it, but I mean, he's a very tall guy, and he's
still though, even though like he carries it pretty well and all that, but you've got to imagine, I mean, there's plenty of transformation that's going to happen in his first couple years in college here and turn a lot of that into muscle, and what that means as far as if the weight goes up or down. I don't really care if the kid's 340 or 385, right? I mean, it's all about being able to play. I think you saw him at a Rivals camp, at least. I don't know that I haven't seen him play in person. I'm not sure if you have.
No, not in person with pads on or anything like that. Just at the Rivals camp. It looked pretty good. I mean, it was that Rivals camp last year in Indy. It was not a good day. It rained the whole time, a lot, very hard in some instances. But yeah, he looked really good. Obviously, really impressive. Caden Green was out there too that same day. So a lot of St. Louis kids came over to that camp. But yeah, I was really impressed with him. And obviously, he was, at the time, he was an underclassman, at the time. So he did really good at that camp. So,
yeah, and it really is. You don't want to focus on the negative part of it, but Reichert he was always a guy Missouri wanted, but I think he became a guy they had to get once Green and McVay went somewhere else. I mean, we started out this year saying one of those three would be decent, two of the three would be a victory, and all three would have been program changing maybe. So they had to get one. I feel like still you feel a little bit empty because two would have been good, but hey, at least it looks like they're going to end up with one of those top 100 guys.
Yeah, I mean, you think about just kind of the four offensive linemen that we've kind of mentioned, the three that they missed out on. Look, they did a great job of getting Amir Herring here. In Missouri to get him on campus for an official visit. He came during the spring as well for an unofficial, but we kind of knew he was probably going to stay at Michigan if they really wanted him. So, and that ended up being the case. But, Caden Green and Miles McVay, those bigger programs come calling and, they really want you and you go visit and, you kind of get enamored with that. And, Caden Green, we kind of thought, hey, Oklahoma's probably going to be it for him too.
Right, but, that was all along. Yeah, that wasn't a thing where it changed really. McVay was a thing where it changed.
Yeah, McVay was where it changed, in terms of, other schools kind of getting involved with him and him taking other visits and, kind of getting enamored with all that. And, hey, he's got an opportunity to go play at Alabama. So, I mean, not a lot of kids going to pass that up.
Right. We're not saying anything bad by that. I mean, hey, Alabama gets most of the kids they want. I mean, that's not a negative, certainly for Miles. So we'll hit a couple questions here before we kind of get on to talking about some of the other stuff we had planned. And again, if you got comments, questions, throw them in there. Cam wants to know, would Jordan Allen have been a take at Mizzou? Jordan Allen was 4-star defensive end, I believe 4-star, but Kansas kid who committed to Canton, 3-star. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm
Not
sorry.
that
Not
that it matters, but let's just pretend we're on the message board, okay?
I was giving him the social media bump. Jordan Allen was a 7-star defensive end out of Kansas that committed to Kansas State a couple days ago. Look, every indication we had was that, yes, Missouri would have taken him. He visited this weekend. I don't think they've filled up on defensive ends. I think they definitely would have taken him.
Yeah. I think that was kind of the indication too. Obviously, Allen was a guy that came in for a June official, and he'd been on campus during the spring as well. But he took officials to Iowa State, and then released the top 4 in July. And I think he took an unofficial to K-State in late July, and then he returned for the official over the weekend, and they kind of sealed the deal there. But yeah, every indication we got was he was still a take for Missouri if he wanted to go there. So.
Yeah. Okay. The Magic Man, Sean, I feel like we're going to get some version of this question for the next 15 weeks. So just be ready, man. What's going on with Mizzou's recruiting at the end of last year and this year's Mizzou recruiting has been caliber of Drake's recruiting at App State? That might be a little harsh.
I would say that'd be a little harsh for last year's class. So, last year's class is still pretty good.
Last year's class ended up number 12. It did not include transfers, which, by the way, if you watched Missouri play on Thursday night, I think Eli did okay for himself in the transfer portal, especially on defense. But to answer the question, I mean, look, some of these kids are going other places. It just, again, they are not losing kids to, Iowa State and Illinois and Arkansas State. They are losing kids to Alabama and Oklahoma. And when you chase kids like this, sometimes you're going to lose them to schools like that. And the other thing that, look, we have to, this has to be a part of the discussion, right? NIL is real. If it's not the first question a kid asked, it's the second or third.
Right.
And it has to at least be a consideration that maybe Missouri fared pretty well in that regard last year. And maybe it's hard to do that year after year after year at a place like Missouri. I mean, if you want to live in the world where Eli landed the number 12 recruiting class just because, man, he's that likable and that charismatic and NIL had nothing to do with it, you live there, man. I'm not going to tell you not to. But some of us live in the place where that might have been and that's not saying anything bad. That's the rule. It's not illegal. Now, it's not illegal that Luther Burden has 18 million NIL endorsements, including his own brand of chips, right? I'm going to guess Sam Horn might get some things. I'm going to guess some other kids in that class might have some endorsements as we go along. So, that's not saying anything bad about Missouri, but it's just, I think it is possible that maybe the NIL money isn't in this class quite what it was in the last class.
It's a good hypothesis, Yeah, these things change from year to year, and I mean, the more you look in the more some of these schools are kind of lagging behind and kind of establishing NIL stuff. So as these things kind of come together, maybe their NIL deals are a lot better than other places, and they have people step up to the plate a little bit more. So that's a huge contributing factor.
The other thing is, and I'm intentionally not going to name any particular school here, but my friend Neil McCready has always talked about how certain schools are recruiting machines, and this is pre-NIL. And what he means is all of the framework, all of the infrastructure was in place, right? To find out, okay, who's the coach want? Okay, where's that money come from? Okay. So NIL, a lot of these places, the only thing that's changed is that it's legal. They already had everything in place to do this because they've been doing it for 25 years to get kids on campus. And again, not mentioning any specific schools, but there are schools out there who recruit really well and have always recruited really well. Then I got bad news. Kids was getting paid before last year, So my point is, that's all already in place, and so nothing really has changed. Whereas some places, I think this has been a little bit more of a learning process. And hey, we've got to get everything in place and we've got to get everything lined up because maybe it wasn't lined up. And I do think that's a real thing.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, look, you have you have these certain schools that maybe already had the infrastructure in place, and now, I mean, now that it's legal, you probably have more businesses wanting to get involved now because it is legal, and they don't have to worry about maybe
Right.
getting caught and being caught up in a scandal.
Um,
So,
I mean, there's
yeah,
some schools out there, all they got to do is throw down some fresh gravel and send a roller over it. Some places got to build the roads and bridges, man.
yeah, yeah, and we've kind of seen that. Like for some people to adjust to this NIL thing. So for some, it was quick, and we can probably assume which ones were quicker than others. And then for other schools and programs, they're still trying to figure it out because the infrastructure, the illegal infrastructure, wasn't there already. So they're trying to figure that out. Probably calling some people at different institutions like, hey man, how did your cast do this like
And
before last year?
yeah, and I don't want to say that like there were schools. I'm not trying to say Missouri has never broken a rule and everything was perfectly above board and they have no idea how to do that. That's not my point. But there's just some places where it's been
Yeah.
refined a little
Yeah.
bit more than others, right?
Yeah, refined, polished, and well executed. How about that?
Yeah, oiled machines, no question. Cam says in terms of O lineman, Andrew Sprague in 2024 is definitely Mizzou's to lose. I think he's a top 250 kid in 2024, and
Yeah.
that's good. Here's one thing though, especially on the offensive line. I remember when Missouri landed Evan Boehm. I think that was a class of, it was either 2012 or 13. And it was a big deal. 4-star kid, took a visit to Auburn, had some other SEC offers, and Missouri got him. And Missouri fans were ecstatic and all that, and they should have been. But I remember saying at the time, Missouri is now competing against schools that get an Evan Boehm, maybe 2 or 3 every year. So my point being, okay, you went 1 for 3 on Reichert, Green, and McVay. You have to get another Logan Reichert next year, maybe 2, and then another 1 or maybe 2 the year after that. You have to be stockpiling 4-star offensive linemen. That Connor Tollison was a 4-star somewhere. And I'm not saying they haven't recruited well enough, but offensive line is a question right now. And you mentioned kind of the last couple of years, it's the one place where you go, maybe they've missed a little bit. Logan Reichert has to be the rule, not the exception.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, we're talking about misses, and like I said, offensive line has been disappointing this year in terms of they're going, they didn't get, 3 of the 4 kids that they're really after, and considering, kind of the recent offers, they haven't offered a lot of kids in 2023 recently, but they did offer the Vanderbilt commitment to the offensive lineman out of Ramsey, Alabama, just earlier this week. So they're still looking for offensive linemen. So that's still a position they're going to go after in this recruiting class in terms of high school kids. So that's still a factor. But when you miss 3 or 4 of the guys you're going after, yeah, you're probably going to offer some more dues and try to get another 1 or 2 in from the high school ranks as well.
Mm-hmm. We got another question that I want to get to in just a second. Just do want to call your attention up to either the graphic up in the left-hand corner or the banner that's running across the bottom of the screen throughout James Carlton State Farm in St. Louis, Missouri. All your insurance needs. He's going to, if you get a quote from him, he'll donate $20 to Mizzou's NIL Collective. Talked to James this morning. Great guy. He really wants to work with you guys. So give him a shot. At the phone number or at the web address below. If your insurance costs a leg and an arm, it's James Carlton State Farm, and he can take care of you. So now I promise there was another question. B. Drizzy, I like that name. It says, is it looking like a transfer-heavy class after this disappointing recruiting class in Drinkwood's terms? And it's not, like, to be fair, it's not a disappointing class yet. It's September, I guess now. But, like, yes, I don't think it's going to be in the top 20. So, I mean, things can happen. But so we were talking before this show started in our pre-show meeting, which lasted a good 6.5 minutes. I mean, we did a lot of prep work this week.
Prep work.
Like Sean.
What's all about?
So besides Reichert, before we get to the transfer talk, we want to talk a little bit about Marvin Burks, who was in Columbia last weekend. Last Thursday, and then on Friday night, Eli went and saw him play. It sure seems to kind of be trending to us that Marvin Burks is going to end up part of this Missouri class.
Yeah, that seems to be like the stock market values going up,
Hmm.
in terms of Marvin Burks after this weekend. I mean, to come to the season opener and then, Drankwitz hops in the helicopter. And I think on Friday night he went and saw Brett Norfleet and then he went and saw Marvin Burks play. That was really a nice indicator. I mean, obviously, Burks has been very quiet, and we
Hmm.
mentioned this on previous shows this year, but super quiet in terms of his recruiting process. We know he took officials to Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and Missouri in June. He's got a top five that also includes Oklahoma and LSU. I don't know if he's going to take officials to Oklahoma and LSU during the season. That's kind of the thing to kind of watch here. But the fact that he showed up for the season opener, Drankwitz goes and watches this game. Got to think Missouri's in a pretty good spot there with Burks. And that would kind of, I guess, that would be another. I mean, we were talking about it last week's show. That'd be another big in-state haul right there. Another four-star kid, to get in your class, from in-state. So, if you can back a Riker commitment up with a Marvin Burks commitment, that's pretty good momentum right there. So,
Yeah, and again, maybe he takes other visits. Honestly, outside of Ole Miss, I don't know if he's necessarily a take at those other schools right now or not. He might be. I'm not saying he's not. I'm truly
right.
saying we don't know.
Once you get to September, and it kind of depends, where you are on the target board. You might not be, might not be as high on the target board as you were in June. So
Right.
for a lot of these kids, so whenever the season flips over and the season starts, it's a little bit of a different ball game. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah. So to get back to B Drizzy's question, I mean, like I asked you this before the show. Is it possible that outside of Reichert and Burks, they just go transfer portal for the rest of this class?
Yeah, we talked about that in our show prep, and obviously, Gabe, you can be called Gabe Drizzy because your last name's
I
starts with a
could.
D. But yeah,
I
I'm just saying
feel
if you
like
want
I feel like
if
I
you
just turned 46, and that just
why,
doesn't work.
why don't you just change the Power Mizzou Twitter account to Gabe Drizzy
I
just for
might.
a day?
I might do that at some point. I'll catch you off guard though. I'm not going to do it right now.
Okay, but anyway, yeah, we were talking about that, and yeah, it's probably gonna maybe be a lot of transfers, but you kind of have a backlash to that. How many transfers do you get? And we've talked about this, and since we started the show this season, I don't think you want to do double digit transfers again, man, because that kind of means the guys you're bringing in you're not confident in that you're recruiting so
Yeah.
far. So, kind of curious to see how many transfers in terms of high school kids. They're still offering 2023s. Well, I just talked about the offensive lineman from Alabama that's committed to Vanderbilt. They also offered the cornerback that's committed to Arkansas State, Tyrell Scott, I believe is his name, just off the top of my head. But he's got, he picked up Auburn offers. He's got a Mississippi State offer. I think those are kind of two schools that are kind of battling out with him. Georgia Tech as well. So, it seems like in terms of high school kids, they're definitely going to go after another offensive lineman. They're definitely going to go after another cornerback, it seems. So we'll kind of see what happens from there in terms of whether, how many transfers is going to be in this class. But if they go double-digit transfers, I don't know, Gabe. We've talked about it the last two
Yeah.
shows. I don't think that's a good sign.
I think there's two kinds of transfers. I don't think you're necessarily going after juniors and seniors, but like, what about a kid like Drayden Norwood who didn't play at A&M last year? You take him, that's basically a high school player, right? So I'm looking at freshmen, redshirt freshmen who maybe don't see playing time where they're at. And that's kind of how you replace, like, if you've gone 1 for 3 or whatever it is on the offensive line and you want 2 more offensive linemen and you don't see guys that are good enough in high school, then maybe you do see what happens in the portal and see if there's anybody that, hey, went 1 year at a program, didn't really like it. And that's basically the same as signing a high school kid. So you're not necessarily bringing in like a 1-year stopgap that's going to come in and automatically be above a bunch of other guys on the depth chart.
Right.
Also, you mentioned Georgia Tech with that defensive back. If you gave me a list and said, what Power 5 program do you want to recruit against right now? I think I'd probably say Georgia Tech because, bro, Jeff Collins' seat on fire coming into this season, and it didn't get any help last night.
It's funny you mentioned that, like, because Russell Johnson at our Georgia Tech site, he sent me like the link to their visitor list because I mean, I guess they can have visitors at that type of game last night, and they had a lot of visitors there. But I'm like, man, they're going for this because this is a free game, right? I mean,
I mean,
Yeah, it's not looking good for Georgia Tech and Jeff Collins. The dude cannot manage his timeouts very well,
The
and
timeouts were very interesting. So were the
yeah.
97 false start penalties.
So they can get kids on campus, but because they had like 3 Vanderbilt commitments on campus, and they had like a South Carolina commitment, and they were supposedly expected to be there. So I think the Scott kid was expected to be there last night as well. So yeah, but hey man, it's a big game in the dome. So yeah, those kids were just kicking ass like, hey man, a free game, I'm gonna go.
Yeah. Well, hey, come for the Mizzou recruiting news. Stay for the Georgia Tech analysis. We do all things here.
Hey, they could definitely affect Missouri recruiting. So you never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, now going back to your point, Gabe, like getting like freshman, sophomore type of transfers. That is a good point. That's why it's important to build relationships with these kids and kind of maintain them, even though they don't come to your program. They could go to a program and really quickly figure out like, hey, I messed up. Look at Mookie Cooper for example one. It's like, hey, I don't like it here. It's not like my thing, and I want to go somewhere else where I kind of feel a little bit more comfortable, I guess.
Yeah, where Chris Olave, Garrett Williams, and Jamison Williams aren't the wide receivers, maybe, and Marvin Harrison and Emeka Egbuka, and my God, man. Yeah, so I think. I think it's under 5 more high school kids in this class. Maybe I'm wrong. It's just, I just base that on, there's not really guys out there that we know about beyond Reichert and Burks that are like, high priority or have had offers for a long time or have set up visits.
Yeah, I mean the two I mentioned, and I don't even know, just Missouri get them on campus. I have no idea. I would say it's probably a long shot because with the Miles kid, I know Mississippi State's making a big push, and he's visited there a couple times. I think he's wanting to take an official visit there this fall. He told me this morning. So, but yeah, here's the thing. I agree with you on less than 5 or 5 or less, but I think we'll see some kids I think we'll see some 23 kids probably get some offers during the season when they see some film, go out and evaluate them in person. So there'll be some kids pop up, but I think it's probably going to be 5 or less, to be honest with you.
And look, is it possible that Miles McVay or Caden Green or somebody else picks up the phone at some point and says, I'm kind of thinking about this. And then you say, absolutely, come on. Of course. They're not turning guys like that away. So, decommitments happen.
Yeah, they say, hey, man, Lucius just got his own chips. I want my own chips, man. So,
right. Exactly. There you go. So, once again, Logan Reichert announcing 4:45 Thursday afternoon. We will be in Kansas City, and we will be, or actually, I guess, in Raytown. We will be all over that one, and then Gerard and I can head in the direction of Manhattan, Kansas for the Josh Manning Bowl after that. I don't know if you know, Sean, there's some bad feelings from K-State fans about that whole thing. They're not Eli fans after that.
Because they thought he was going to K-State when that July 3rd announcement.
Because he was going to K-State. Like he was going to K-State and Missouri talked him into waiting,
Hey, welcome to recruiting. Okay.
Right.
Look, hey, they should feel redeemed because Jordan Allen committed to K-State and Missouri wanted him. Right. So,
they also really got their feelings hurt. Apparently, Avery Johnson sent out a tweet that says the love is real after Manning's visit, and then Drinkwitz sent out one that said the same thing. So they're very mad at Drinkwitz because they think he's insulting their 18-year-old quarterback prospect. I don't really know that he was. That's not that uncommon of a phrase. Maybe he was. I don't know, but even if it was,
I think the timing probably suggests that maybe there was a little bit of a dig there. But hey,
a little bit of ulterior motive.
Once again, this is recruiting; it's not for the faint of heart. And hey, if Eli Drinkwitz supposed to get a dig in on a recruiting win, so be it, man.
Right, absolutely, and it wasn't all that insulting, but
no,
I don't think Winter gets Josh Manning on Saturday. I think Missouri's already got him. I think they'll hang on to him, but
we'll see.
right. I guess we'll see what happens. So anyway, guys, appreciate you hanging out with us on this Tuesday. If you have a minute before you log off. If you're watching live, hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, all that. If you are listening afterwards on the podcast, which I'll upload here in just a minute, if you could leave us a 5-star review and do all the very nice things that help out our analytics and visibility on the internet and things like that, that would be much appreciated. But more important than all of those things, what we want you to do is contact James Carlton, State Farm in St. Louis. The web address is right there, carltoninsurance.net. The phone number is 314-961-4800. The Facebook page, if you're over 65, is facebook.com/Carlton Insurance. And if you are of the Facebook age, probably ought to get some life insurance. So maybe check that out. Maybe that's a thing you can do. But also homeowners insurance, your car, everything. James can take care of you. You're going to call him. You're going to get a real live person on the phone. They're not going to give you a hard sell. They're all about customer service, and they think that their team can sell itself. So they're just going to have a talk with you, see if they can save you a little bit of money. You may have insurance somewhere else, but James is a Missouri fan. He's a Power Mizzou subscriber. He's trying to help us out here. So we ask you to just give him the first shot. Shop around. We're not asking you to spend more money than you're already spending. But if James can give you a deal, give him the chance to do that. Also, if you call him and mention that you heard about him on Power Mizzou, he's going to donate $20 to Advancing Missouri Athletes, the Mizzou NIL Collective. So in the words of Michael Gary Scott, that's what we call a win-win-win situation. So we'd like y'all to do that. And Sean, I don't know, any parting shots, man?
No, I think Magic Man said Jamal Roberts might be the steal of the class. I mean, yeah, that's very possible. He looked really good against SLU, and I think he had over 100 yards the other night as well. So
there you go. All right. So there you heard it. Appreciate all you guys hanging out. We will be back next Tuesday. Before that, tomorrow afternoon, I'm here with Gerard Hamilton talking Mizzou, Kansas State this weekend. Thanks for watching. Catch you later.